Problem 1611. Negus Enterprises has an inventory conversion period of 50 days, an average collection period of 35 days, and payables deferrable of 25 days. Assume that COGS is 80% of sales. 3 questions to answer. First, what is the length of the firm's cash conversion cycle? If annual sales are 4.38 million and sales are on credit, what is the firm's investment in accounts receivable? Lastly, how many times does Negus Enterprises turn over its inventory? Quick warning, when we get to part C, I'm sure it's going to be difficult for some of you to work through the algebra. I've tried to put everything here in as a simple form as possible, but I'm sure naturally some people are just not as adept to working through algebra. So it might help you to pen this out on your own and work through it, but nonetheless, everything's correct. Okay, so for the cash conversion cycle, we're looking at how long does it take to get raw goods in and actually sell those products. So we see an inventory conversion of 50 days. And then once we sell a product, we have an average collection of 35 days. So we're having to, remember, float that product being out there for 35 days because all sales are on credit. But we get a relief from our supplier of 25 days of free credit. So our cash conversion cycle is 60 days. That's 60 days that we have to fund to hold inventory. Investments in receivables, we're going to look at our annual sales, which is the 4.38 million. And then we're going to calculate what that is on a daily basis. So we can see that we're getting 12,000 in sales daily. And so we can actually figure that out. Well, over this 35-day period, how much are we actually funding? So notice it takes 50 days to get product in and sell it. And then we're sitting for 35 days or waiting for 35 days to be paid. So if we're selling $12,000 a day, that 35 days represents a total holding cost over that period of 35 days of $420,000. When it gets to inventory turnover, the next part can be solved in a couple of ways. The easiest way that I know how to present it is to compare the inventory conversion, which is known. Notice up here we have inventory conversion of 50 days relative to the inventory turnover ratio. So inventory conversion, we're looking right here, is equal to inventory divided by COGS divided by 365. We can rearrange this to isolate for inventory, where inventory conversion times COGS divided by 365 is equal to inventory. When it comes to inventory turnover is equal to COGS divided by inventory. We again, just some simple algebra, and we isolate for inventory, which is equal to COGS divided by inventory turnover. Why we do this is so that, notice both equations here are now equal to inventory, and we can replace this part up here. So now we're left with inventory conversion times COGS divided by 365 is now equal to COGS divided by inventory turnover. And so you'll notice on both sides of the equation here, we have COGS, which we're going to get rid of, and we're going to just move this around so then we can isolate for the unknown, which is inventory turnover. So the first thing we'll do is multiply both sides by inventory turnover, which then we're left with COGS on the right-hand side. And so now we have inventory conversion times inventory turnover times COGS divided by 365 is equal to COGS. We can then divide both sides by COGS and multiply by 365. So the COGS drop, and then we multiply, or we essentially have a 1 over here on the right-hand side. And then we multiply both sides by 365 to get rid of this divided value here. We then end up with inventory conversion is equal to times inventory turnover is equal to 365. So our unknown again is inventory turnover, so we just isolate. So we're left with inventory turnover is equal to 365 divided by inventory conversion. So 365 divided by our known of inventory conversion of 50 days means we're going through inventory, or rather Negus is going through inventory 7.3 times per year. So again, I'm sure for some of you following through this might be a little confusing. sit down, pen it out. Notice we're just using one ratio here, another ratio here. This is kind of like back when we started out with DuPont, where we're just isolating. Okay, so notice we isolate for inventory. We then combine the left-hand side of this equation with the right-hand side here. We end up with this. We then just simplify by moving inventory turnover to the left-hand side, moving COGS in 365 to the right-hand side, and lastly then isolating for inventory turnover to get our solution.